So that's I think just now happening, Scott. That we're seeing some of the tools on the player experience side to that will inform possible changes in how we operate for efficiency, profitability, and to offer experiences that the consumers want. I just want a 45-minute golf experience. How on earth do I get that? That's on the golf course.
What's up, golfers everywhere? Welcome back to episode 17 of the Pace of Change Golf Podcast, where we're broadcasting the evolution of golf in the 21st century. Be sure to visit our website, paceofchange.com, where you can access all previous episodes, show notes, and exclusive offers from our show sponsors. Thank you for listening, each and every one of you, and liking and subscribing. And finally, sharing this podcast with every golfer you know. Man, the future of golf is bright. If anything, today's episode is going to give you confidence in that. So please, share this with every golfer you know. We want them to see the future the way we do as well. This is a critical episode for us. Why? Because up until now, we've been highlighting the 21st century golf entrepreneur. You know, those on the fringe, working tirelessly to bring their innovative ideas, services, and products into the mainstream. But what about the gatekeepers, those within the industry? You know, we haven't had that ping response back yet. Well, now we do. This is the crossover episode with Jay Karen, CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association. Now, Jay is hard at work, on the ground, building strong relationships with and serving his 3,000 plus owner-operator members. But his position as CEO also earns him a seat at golf's biggest, most influential tables. You can imagine who else is sitting around them. Most importantly, golfers, Jay is one of us. So are you ready? We do it fast. We make it fun today. You're going to love this episode. Turn it up and enjoy our conversation with Jay Karen. Hey guys, this episode of the Pace of Change Golf Podcast is brought to you by Taylor Brands. It's 2016 and it's never been easier to start a business, sell a product, or offer a service. But oftentimes the first step in the process, designing a high quality logo and brand, keeps many would-be entrepreneurs from moving forward. But what if you could design anything you need in less than 30 seconds at an affordable cost? Does it sound impossible? With Taylor Brands' online platform, you can. At taylorbrands.com, you can build custom logos, presentations, or even entire brands with ease. No hidden tricks, no pre-made logos. I've personally used their platforms a couple times now, and just about every other online logo design website you can find in the past. Without a doubt, Taylor Brands' logo building process is the easiest, fastest, and highest quality product I've ever tested. Now, I could easily spend hundreds of dollars on other crowdsourcing design sites, and unfortunately, I have. But don't make the same mistake. Try it for free today. You can go through the entire process and then decide if you want to make the purchase. And as a special offer to our listeners, purchase the professional bundle and receive a free social profile banner upgrade. Guys, that's a $25 value. Use the promo code PACEOFCHANGE at checkout. All right, everybody, we have Jay Karen, CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association, on with us today, episode 17. Jay, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, Scott and dude.
Yeah, man, it's awesome to have you, and we've been kind of waiting for an episode like this to kind of get down to it with all the course operators and owners and everything that we're facing in the golf industry, to hear what is going down and how the ship is starting to move and starting to change course and evolve in the 21st century, which is something we're so passionate and excited about. We always ask our guests to give us like a 60-second, short bio to catch us up. Nothing too long-winded, almost like a Twitter handle bio or something like that. Give us that currently on what's going on in your life.
Well, I'll give you the 15-second bio. How's that?
Boom. Elevator. There you go. Even better.
If I had to describe the Twitter handle of my bio, it would be association leader working to make good things happen for the golf industry.
Oh, I love it.
That was way shorter than 15 seconds. That's not easy to do, Jay.
I try under-promising and over-delivering if I can. But
So how did you first get involved with golf?
Oh, well, as a kid, I have 3 brothers, and growing up in the 70s and 80s as a kid, my dad played golf every Sunday morning with his regular foursome. Classic story. It was kind of a blue-collar country club in the suburbs of Atlanta called Summit Chase Country Club in Snellville, Georgia. And so Dad had his regular foursome every Sunday morning, and I remember he had to call, Monday morning at 8 a.m. on the dot to reserve his tee time every single week, and he got it every week, obviously. And when one of his buddies couldn't play, I would always beg and plead to go along with him. And so, dating back to when I guess I was about 8 or 9 years old, I would ride along, and that's how I learned to play. I never took official lessons or anything like that, but Dad's friends always would give me tips, and I just enjoyed and loved being on the golf course, and that whole culture and experience was very attractive to me. So that's how I kind of got into the game and learned the game, was with Dad and his buddies.
It's very similar to my experience, almost identical.
You know what else I appreciate about that kind of common history that we all share? And it's a point that I think maybe I haven't thought a lot about lately, but, we want to get our kids out now that we're grown up and now that we're having children. We want to get our children out with us because it was such an impactful piece of our story to be out there on the golf course with Dad, this guy we look up to and all of his buddies. But, I feel like spending that, because I have the same story. Most of my golf experiences at a young age were with my father and his golfing buddies, his business partners, et cetera, et cetera. But, we learned so many things from the game of golf, but I feel like I learned so much about how to communicate professionally, how to hang around my dad's friends, the older generation, and to act more maturely and to, really to feel comfortable around people that I respect. So I appreciate that aspect of being a young golfer as well. Did you experience that as well?
Yeah, maybe you're like me, Scott, but when I was a kid, I preferred hanging out with adults than kids.
Oh yeah,
it's just one of those.
Oh yeah.
My wife and my parents laugh at me, but when I was 5 years old and I lived in a South Florida town, man, on Saturday mornings I would go down the street to knock on the door of the old retired couple, Larry and Greta, to see if they could come out and play. And that carried forward into golf. It was perfectly set up for someone who enjoys, as a kid, the company of older folks. Basically older generation to see what you know. And let me learn from watching and listening from what you do. And it was kind of hand in glove, I guess, for a kid like me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it actually follows through even to, being in your 40s. I was just listening to interview with Gary Player after the Masters. He said that he didn't learn how to play golf until he was 70. So we can still be learning from the older crowd.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And so, and to that point, Scott, as far as going out on the course with Dad, and these are my own observations from kind of paying attention to the generational shifts and what's happening in culture, but with the gender equality that has happened in the household, which is a very good thing, that the role of the mom and the dad are equalizing. Well, that means essentially Dad can't just disappear all Sunday and go to the country club and that be okay. But my wife actually and I had a rule early in our marriage. We had a couple of rules, and one of the rules was no golf on Saturday mornings. And this was early before we even had kids, because I'd be traveling and I'd come home on Friday, and first thing I'd do is go play golf Saturday morning. And she just thought, that wasn't great, wasn't fair, or she didn't like it. And then we had kids, and it was similar. You can't go away for half a day and play golf. But now that I'm taking my kids on the golf course with me, she's like, go for it. Disappear.
Get out of here.
Absolutely. So if I can bring the kids along and integrate them into my golfing experience on the weekends, then it totally works.
Now, your passion, because you've stated that you are a diehard certified member of the American Society of Association Executives. So where does that passion come from? Is that also something from your dad or your mom, or how does that happen?
Interesting. So the American Society of Association Executives, if you pay attention to what that means, is the association for people who run associations.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I've been a real student of my profession since I've been working since I left college, running organizations. And I was a history major. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a social studies teacher, coach golf, kind of live that life.
Yeah.
But in college and high school, I was student body president of, 20 clubs and all of that kind of stuff. So I've always been an organizer and a leader in that sense. And so when I discovered that there was this profession of running national organizations, it was perfectly in line with all of the outside of the classroom interest that I had growing up in running clubs and organizations.
Wow.
So it was just and most people in college, when they're seeking out professions, they have no idea that these things exist, that these associations are even in American society and that help run American society. So to be part of an office that's making change happen for an entire segment or an entire industry is really exciting to do that.
So, and I think we should step back and slow down just a little bit here, because it might be good to help explain, and I know that you'll be passionate about this, but explain the benefits of an association. What is that all about, for people to kind of just get down to brass tacks about,
Sure.
the definition of an association?
Absolutely. There are usually two primary kinds of associations. There are trade associations and what are called professional societies. Trade associations typically represent the business interests of an entire industry, keeping it safe from harmful legislation, advancing its interests. Professional societies generally represent the position at a company or a business. Mm-hmm. And it's, for example, a nurses organization or a science teachers association rather than, let's say, the National Education Association.
Yeah.
These organizations, date back to pre-Revolutionary War times in America of citizens coming together to organize to make things happen that they couldn't do on their own. And that's the essence of an association, leveraging numbers in aggregate to make things happen that you just could not do on your own. And that takes form in so many different ways, from lobbying to providing educational resources and trying to stimulate business through interests like what chambers of commerce do. Chambers of commerce all over the United States are associations of businesses. They try stimulating business for their local community. A lot of associations nationally and state and locally do the same kind of thing. There's really nothing else in American society that does this kind of work. So it's very relevant today, although it's been disrupted in the last 10 or 15 years because people can get information and resources in places other than associations. The internet has revolutionized a lot of that. So associations are not immune from a lot of the changes in society. So we have to find ways to remain relevant to our constituencies.
That's so true about the information part. As I was thinking about it, I thought about the other really important aspect of association, which is the networking and the getting to know of other people in your industry, and how that helps, not in maybe in the immediate moment when you need the information or you're going to use the information, but in the long run, down the road, having that network of contacts is so important.
The fact is, I'm in LinkedIn. I've got something like 1,000 contacts. I probably actually know 50 of them. Right. Yeah. So, the networking that actually exists in some of these online communities is surface, and it's just get me what I need from an information standpoint, and then I'll kind of go away. But from an actual in-depth relationship building, networking, sharing of ideas, nothing beats face to face. And all of the advances in this technology have not really threatened association meetings, in-person meetings, where the networking, Scott, that you talked still happens today. We're still human beings. We need and want to see each other in person. And the more in-person relationships that we can develop, the more important these online communities actually become, because you know the people.
Yes. Now. Yes. Yeah. LinkedIn is a perfect example. I use it exactly for networking. I don't spend a ton of time on LinkedIn, but you and I actually connected through LinkedIn. So now you know 51 people. Actually 52, dude. But yeah, just there's so much power out there for people who are feeling like they're alone, or out there feeling like, man, who else is going through what I'm going through? That's another thing,
You're right, and it's a very, this is similar to the associations I ran in lodging, of small lodging operators, where it's a very isolating profession if you're an owner operator, because if you may be surrounded by other golf courses, but you do see them as competitors, so you're going to limit how much you really engage with them on a sharing, networking standpoint. From an ownership standpoint, the employees, PGA pros and superintendents and club managers, they don't see each other as individuals as competition as much, and so they're more likely to have local networking opportunities that are successful. So having a national organization or a state chapter like we do is very, very helpful to the golf course owners, because it gives them that once-a-year opportunity to come together, talk with their peers, network, and build friendships and relationships. And then they go back to their course in that kind of relatively isolating situation to operate the rest of the year. So we do provide a nice service in that sense.
That's really cool scenario that you described there, where, like, I can totally see how if you're a local golf course operator owner, you wouldn't want to be real buddy with the golf course down the street. But if you go to the NCGOA conference and you meet a guy in another state who's in a similar town, has a similar kind of course that's maybe public-private like yours or whatever, and in a similar population area, maybe you might want to strike up a friendship with this guy and keep in touch and sort of compare notes, because you're not competing with one another.
Right, and that's the heart of what we do, and facilitate those kinds of connections. And we have an online forum we call Accelerate, and every day people are offering up problems that they're having, their operation or questions that they're having, and other operators from all over the country, sometimes all over the world, are chiming in with, here's what I would do in that situation, or here's the product that I bought that satisfied that problem that I was having, and so forth. So it's definitely still a core service that we provide.
I don't want to go too far down this rabbit trail, because it could just go on and on and on. But, I think you'll be able to clarify after I ask this question. But with all of these resources that do exist, and how long has the NGCOA been active and been around and been making a difference?
We were founded in 1979 by a gentleman named Don Rossi, who was very involved in the National Golf Foundation. And at the time, being founded in 79, we're actually the new kids on the block as far as the major associations. The others have been, PGA celebrating their centennial this year. And so it was formed as an organization of public access for-profit golf courses. The daily fee small operator was the nucleus of the founding of NGCOA. It was actually called the Golf Course Association when it was founded, and it changed its name to the NGCOA back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so we've been doing this for almost 40 years, and because of who we represent, the owner-operator, the employer, it's gotten us a seat at the table with the major golf organizations, and we've found that over the last 15 to 20 years, we've been collaborating with these other organizations, which have a real stakeholder. They put a stake in the ground years and years ago about what they're trying to do for the industry, what they're doing for their constituency. But nobody until NGCOA really looked after the benefit or looked after
those guys.
Interests of the owner operator, the small business. But it has evolved over time. NGCOA now is a strong mix of those smaller operators as well as larger management companies and multi-course owners. As the industry has evolved, so has the profile of the NGCOA member.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, big groups like Eagle Golf and
American Golf,
they are members of NCGOA.
NGCOA.
Yeah. Almost all of the large multi-course operators management companies are members. We have specialized services to meet their needs as larger, operations executives at those companies. We do a meeting every June just for that segment of the industry. And they're the ones that are going to be more in tune to some of the macro issues that golf needs to deal with. And so we call upon them when we're dealing with some of the macro issues.
You may not have this information at your fingertips, but how many members of NGCOA own more than one golf course?
We have over 3,000 courses in the United States in our membership, and I would say only about a third of them are truly, I only have an 18-hole operation or 9-hole operation, nothing more. The rest are in some multi-course owner or management situation. That could be somebody that owns 2 courses or somebody who manages 200. So it's the multi-course owner management, if we were defining 2 or more, is pretty strong in our membership. But it's just been the way a lot of the industry has moved over the last 20 years.
So there's 12 to 15,000 courses, I guess, nationwide, right? I got somewhere in between those two numbers. And there's 3,000 NGCOA members. So for the other 9,000 courses, like what is going on? Why are they behind the times? How come they're not a part of your association?
Good question. That's what keeps me up at night, Scott. Right. Well, a lot of those folks have been through our doors at one time or another, because as a trade association, we are a voluntary organization. I'll pay dues this year. I might need something, and then I back out if I don't need something, or if ownership changes. A lot of it depends on the owner himself or herself, as far as, oh gosh, I've been doing this 30 years. I don't need an association to tell me what to do. Or I just bought a golf course. Holy cow, I need help.
Yeah.
So it depends on the life cycle of that business oftentimes.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at, there are about 14,000 or so courses. Okay. Let's say about a quarter of them are private clubs. So when you got to take them out as far as our primary sweet spot kind of facility. A lot of those folks are members of the Club Managers Association of America, and we do have a number of private clubs, but they're not our sweet spot. So they're not going to see us as a resource as quickly as another profiled golf course. Municipalities is another one. I figure there are probably 2,000 municipal golf courses in the United States. Same thing. If you're the director of golf running a small muni, you may not be thinking like an owner and operator, and I need to join an association to better my business. You're thinking, okay, I've got a $500,000 a year budget. I got to make sure I cut the grass and, open up the doors at 6 a.m. And, we charge $27. And, you're not going to look at it necessarily as, what do I need to do to make more money, be more successful in my operation? So now you're narrowing down the market of really who we go after to probably closer to 9,000 facilities.
Yeah.
In that case, we have almost a third of them, which is, for a trade association, that's something significant to work with when you're lobbying and doing work. But we have to look at all kinds of reasons why people join associations. Some say, give me a benefit like a discount on this product, and I want NGCOA to negotiate that discount for me. Some will say, you know what, I don't need anything except I just want to know that you're at Capitol Hill lobbying our interests, and that's good for me. Others may say, I need access to the conference. I want to go every year, and if I'm a member, I get a cheaper rate to go to the conference. So trying to figure out what each course owner wants out of an association and delivering that basically requires us to try to be multifaceted to the marketplace and offer a number of services, and hopefully that some of them are powerful enough to cause good recruitment and retention strategies. So when I left NGCOA, I was there from 97 to 2007, and I left for 9 years. We had over 6,000 courses in our worldwide operation. So we've fallen kind of in hard times since the recession, and I was hired last year to essentially help turn that around.
So you graduate from college. What's your first job that you take?
My first job out of college was I worked in Charlottesville, Virginia, for national office of my fraternity, Kappa Sigma fraternity. I worked in the
You're a Kappa Sig?
Yeah.
My dad and brother are Kappa Sigs.
All right, they must be good guys.
They're excellent. I don't know what happened to me.
It was my first experience working at a national organization. Yes, it's a fraternity, but the fraternity had tens of thousands of members, and I got to kind of be in the bowels of an organization, see how it works, how this thing called a board of directors operates with the staff. What kind of value are we giving to the people who pay dues to be a member of our organization? And that year I was 23 or 22. I worked out of my Chevy Corsica, and I visited all the chapters that we had in the Northeast United States, sleeping in fraternity houses for an entire academic year, trying to help guys keep their noses clean. And I helped start new chapters on campuses. So I got a feel for recruitment and membership recruitment. And so I did that for 1 year because, man, while it was fun, no human being should live in fraternity houses.
Yeah, I bet you were worn out after that year.
That's a book, man. You need to write a book about that.
No kidding.
Yeah, I know. And then the summer of 1997, I worked in Atlanta, where I grew up, for a construction company, and helping build a library in Emory's campus. So I went from this strange job to just sweating all day long in the summer heat in Atlanta, helping build that library. And then I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, in August of '97 to get my master's in American history. Because remember, I was going to be this teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
And I needed my master's degree to earn more than $21,000 a year in the South Carolina public school system. So I was like, well, let me get my master's degree. And I started in August of '97. And 2 weeks into that job, going to school, I got offered a job at NGCOA. I had a friend who worked here. And she said, hey, listen, my mom needs some help selling trade show booths for the annual conference. Do you want to work part-time? Like, of course, I'm a poor graduate student. I've got no income. So I started working at NGCOA, helping with the annual conference, not sponsorship sales, but trade show sales.
Yeah.
And helping, and I became the right hand of the conference director. And 2 weeks into the job, I started working there full time, and I went to part time with my graduate program. This is a pretty cool gig. I love golf.
Nice.
National organization. It's in Charleston. Okay, let me go on the slower track with the master's program and see what this is about. And essentially, I stayed 10 years. I finished my master's, but I stayed 10 years and kind of rose in the ranks. And I was director of membership at NGCOA for 7 of those 10 years. And the last year I was there, I was director of the programs over our sponsorship programs, our purchasing program, and so forth. And then I left in 2007.
All right, so you leave in 2007. Now that's got to be
right at the right time.
Well, exactly. You're working your way up at the NGCOA, and all of a sudden you kind of turn your head a little bit, and you see an opportunity away from the NGCOA. So, what was it that it seems like you're rising through the ranks, you're making your way up at that association? Why did you decide to make that move?
So, really interesting question, Scott. As far as why did I change? In my buddies that my association colleagues that were running or working at other associations, they thought I was crazy leaving golf. Are you nuts?
Yeah.
Well, probably because they were benefiting from some of the golf, because I would organize golf outings, and they were getting all this great golf everywhere. But at the time, as I said earlier, I was a real serious student of my profession, of association management and leadership. And 10 years at any one place is probably long enough to have as much of an impact as you're going to have. And I knew, so I was ready to leave just to spread my own wings, if you will. I wanted to run an association. I wanted to be an association CEO, and I was working directly for Mike Hughes, my predecessor, for a long time. And he was a young man, so he's not going anywhere. And he really brought me along in leadership opportunities in NGCOA, but I was ready to go out. And so what I knew I wanted to do was limit my search in the association world to stay in recreation, hospitality, travel, those kinds of spaces, because the people that you serve and represent are in the business of delivering joy for a living.
Come on.
And so I thought, if you're working at an association, which those skills can be applied to any kind of industry, any kind of profession, why not stay in a happy place, right? So even though there are challenges. So I went into the lodging industry, and I became the CEO of the trade association that represented basically the bed and breakfast industry, which had a lot of parallels to golf. There were about 15,000 properties, very fragmented, no chains in that part of the industry, lots of smaller owner operators, land, tax issues, property tax issues, dealing with online distribution of inventory, all kinds of parallels. And so that job came open, and I was able to win that job, the CEO job of that. And I moved my family up to South Jersey in 2007, South Carolina, which is where the headquarters was.
Yeah.
So I ran that organization for about 7.5 years. And then I left that organization to run a group called Select Registry, which is a group of high-end luxury properties in the B&B country inn boutique hotel space, kind of a marketing organization.
And this is in 2000 now, 11 or 2000?
That's 2013? 2014. I'm sorry, 2014.
Okay.
So 2007 to 2014, I worked for the innkeeping organization, and then 2014, I took over Select Registry. Yeah, by the way, I failed to mention that I moved the Innkeeping Association's headquarters to Charleston in 2011, so I kind of brought it back home.
Yeah, baby.
It made a lot of sense. I mean, Charleston is a very, it's a seat of hospitality and if I'm recruiting nationally for staff members, it's easier to recruit from Charleston than South Jersey, honestly.
Yeah.
So, so I took over Select Registry, whose headquarters was in Marshall, Michigan, and I moved that headquarters to Charleston as well. And then 18 months into that job, which was going really well, in both organizations, I was able to really turn the tide of shrinking membership. And we were able to be successful in bringing new value to the members and practicing great association leadership and turning the tide of performance in both of those organizations. And so the call came for the NGCOA gig in the spring of 2015. And I thought, well, I know golf is having its challenges, and lodging does too, but the segment of lodging I was in was seeing really good times because a lot of people were ditching the chain hotel for these boutique experiences. So we were doing really well.
Well, let me jump in there and ask you. I mean, what about the challenges of? I mean, I know you represent an association, but I don't know, how do I put this? Like Airbnb, VRBO, these kinds of things that are having so much success now, which, to be honest with you, just a couple of years ago weren't even as crazy as they are now. I mean, things are just technology and advancements and that kind of stuff are just, 12 months from now, the whole world could be different, it seems like. But how did Airbnb and VRBO, how do those kinds of things affect your association's ability to be successful? Or is it looked at like a competitor or not?
Good question. On a micro level, like a market level, you have to ask some of the people who own B&Bs and inns. It depends because the Airbnb VRBO phenomenon has a lot of public policy surrounding it, and is city by city based. And some places embrace it, some places do not. And the impact on properties is really at the market level. So you'd have some folks saying, man, this is great. Some folks in our industry saying this is great because it's training the traveler to ditch the hotel and try something different. And the bed and breakfast is kind of like, I always put it kind of in the middle between the chain hotel experience and the Airbnb experience, because you want something local and authentic, which Airbnbs try to deliver, but you want the consistency or at least some reliability.
Yeah.
And B&Bs kind of hit that sweet spot for a lot of travelers. And so more and more people were training themselves to leave hotels, and that put them in the path of the B&B industry oftentimes. So on one hand, it's a good thing, but where there were policies at the local level that were unfair, then the owners and operators of B&Bs really did not appreciate the advent of Airbnb and so forth. For example, safety issues, taxation fairness, that, hey, we're a B&B, we've got to collect 13% lodging fees and sales taxes. Well, Airbnb down the street or just down the block is not doing that.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yes.
Or safety issues, that we have to have sprinklers in our building. We have to have an egress plan and in fire inspections. They don't. So where is the fairness and level playing field was kind of the issue that we advocated on with that industry, but it was kind of like competing cousins, I guess, is how we saw it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then you get the call. You're back at the NGCOA in 2015, middle of 2015, and you just jump in and you're running. What are some of your initiatives right now? What are some of the 1, 2, or 3 most important things that you're focusing on that when you came into this job you were like, yes, this is what I'm passionate about doing with the NGCOA right now?
So what I realized was the need for a new strategic plan, just simply a path forward document. Where are we going as an organization, and what are we going to commit to? NGCOA had been operating without that kind of clarity for a number of years. And so that was the first order of business. And the board was all for my involvement in creating a new path forward. And so that path forward consists of doing a phenomenal job in 3 primary areas. One is advocacy. I don't necessarily call it lobbying, because some of the issues that we deal with are what we call market influencers, and providing real leadership on that. So some of it is public policy, whether it's taxation issues in Washington, D.C., or golf not being treated fairly on certain issues, environmental matters, all of that. A lot of public policy issues that we need to take a leadership position on and activate more on. So that, but there are also what we call market influencer issues, like third-party tee time distribution.
Oh, we could talk about that for a while, yeah.
The online tee time companies and the impact they've had on the supply side of the business. and it's been kind of a Wild West phenomenon for a number of years without a lot of law and order to it.
Yeah.
And so NGCOA is really stepping out, along with the PGA of America, to try to bring some law and order, if you will, to how this all should work in the marketplace. And that's an area that we tried providing education on over the years, but now it's time for more leadership and action on some of this stuff. And so that was one of the early things that we saw that needed to happen. Also, from an education standpoint, we publish Golf Business Magazine, and we'll continue to do that. It's a great piece. We need to be more progressive with some of our educational content. Like, we're going to be introducing a podcast series similar to something like this.
Bring it on.
In shorter bites and in long interviews as well. But this is how people can like to consume content.
Yeah.
More webinars, more podcasts, just more and better education. Getting more robust with education in operations. And then lastly is our role with commerce. We used to call it player development. And we've been involved, and actually we're a leader on the whole player development discussion before there was a Golf 2020. Because the golf course owner and operator was the first to see the coming supply and demand challenges that were going to happen. And so we started the conversation of needing to promote the game of golf to the consumers out there.
Yeah. And you're saying they were the first to see it because they're literally behind the counter at their operation every day? And is that why you're saying that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the owner is going to be the one who's paying attention to the competition coming in the marketplace. Holy cow, they're building 3 more golf courses?
Yeah.
Is that good or not? The owner's going to look at it in a very different way than let's say the PGA pros or the superintendents, where these are more opportunities. For some of those folks. And so, so we had to take a leadership position, and we helped create Golf 2020. We actually came out with the first ever grassroots campaign to market golf. It was called Get Linked, Play Golf, and this was the precursor to Play Golf America, which is the precursor to Get Golf Ready and all of these different things. But trying to pivot a little bit from just focusing on player development, what we want to do is talk much more about customer retention. What are we doing to keep golfers from exiting the back door? And what can we do as an industry together to address that? Because what I think happens, Scott, is we can get our arms as an industry around player development stuff. Like, hey, let's create a program to bring in this kind of player, a junior league program with PGA, or, kids or minorities and adults. We can get our arms around a program to get people in. But I think the consciousness in our industry has been, once they're in, then we're hoping that the golf courses around America are going to do a good enough job that they'll stay. And then, by the way, we can grow this industry by doubling the people that come into the business kind of mentality. Let's lift the number of people coming into golf. The natural result will be more people staying in a larger industry. Well, this hasn't been happening. The last several years. We've been losing players at a faster pace than we've been gaining players. So what are we doing collectively among the associations or from an education standpoint directly with our own members to close that back door and to keep people from leaving golf? And some of it is out of our control. Life cycle situations that there's a natural attrition that happens in anything.
Yep, absolutely.
So can we control? In NGCOA, to get back to your question, kind of what do we really want to work on?
Yeah.
We want to help identify those things happening at the micro level at the golf course that are within our control that will allow us to do a better job of customer retention.
Hey there, everybody. This episode is also brought to you by another awesome, forward-leaning, innovative golf venture called Rival and Revel. We all look forward to that next round of golf, a trip with old friends, or a rare moment of pursuing our passions late in the evening, the sun's going down. Their goal is to make this valuable leisure time even more enjoyable, efficient, and relaxing, offering a variety of branded golf accessories, club head tech covers, and the one and only Silo Golf Club carrier. This product is a game changer in the golf industry, and it may just be a game changer for you too. If you don't know what the Silo is, press stop. Head over to their website, rivalandrevel.com, and check it out. Whether you are the super competitive player or the one that just celebrates being out there, Rival and Revel's mission is to help you make the most of it. Now, they've got a special discount just for our listeners. Use the code PACEOFCHANGE at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order. So is that where you are? I mean, are you kind of keeping your eye on some of the latest, golf-oriented businesses, and I noticed like the shirt you're wearing, Visage.
Yeah.
That's by a company, GPS Industries. We actually interviewed one of their field engineers the other day. So jump into tech a little bit. Where are you on tech in terms of integrating that into kind of the fabric of the playing experience over the next, say, 5 to 7 years?
All right, so I must offer the caveat. First of all, I hate crystal balling because
Yeah,
I like talking about it, but nobody can predict what's going to happen.
No.
Taxi industry would never have predicted 10 years ago the rise of this thing called Uber, right? So it's hard to predict. But the golf experience, I will make some comments. The golf experience, I think, is close to the dining experience when it comes to looking at the experience. Now, at the end of the day, the golf experience is about getting out on the field of play, beating a ball around, and having a great time in the exterior environment with your friends, and using this thing called a golf club and a golf ball and greens and tees. I don't see any revolutionary change to what the experience should be. Like dining. If I'm going to go out to a restaurant,
it ain't changed very much.
Experience. I'm looking just for a great tasting meal with great service, and that's it. Now, when you bring in the technology discussion, I think it's more about fine tuning certain aspects of that experience to make it better and to respond to what maybe diners want or what golfers want. Look at the advent of I would say the rise of the dining establishments like Qdoba or I guess what's their competitor? Chipotle.
Yeah.
Where the self-service, like you go into the line and get you high quality food. It's not quite fast food like Burger King and McDonald's. It's a higher quality.
It's like right in between. Yeah.
Yes, it's in between. So they decided, gosh, from an operational model, it's not worth it to have waiters and waitresses here, but we can still deliver a finer food experience, a quality experience, and adjust to what the patron possibly wants in this kind of experience. And so it's happening all the time in dining, like, let's say iPads as menus. When iPads first came out, people were thinking, oh man, how revolutionary would it be to use iPads for menus? And that shows the world we are so tech savvy.
Exactly.
Well, it almost doesn't really matter in the sense of, on one hand, yes, it'd be nice, give me an iPad. And if it's really easy that I can order my own food, just give it to me and I can push here. But that might be a nice fine tuning option available, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if that iPad is simply just an electronic version of a menu and you still have a waiter coming to your table? Well, that technology hasn't revolutionized anything about the dining experience.
It sure hasn't.
So we're looking at golf. I think we have to do things similarly. As far as the fine-tuning the experience, what is the booking process like, this whole online booking phenomenon? Is it good? Is it healthy? Is it helpful to golf? You get to the golf course. Ask the question, why do I have to check in at the pro shop anymore? I already paid for my reservation online. Why can't I go right to the first tee? Now, from an operations standpoint, the challenge there is you want them to come into the pro shop and spend a few bucks.
Yep.
Right? So, but how can we use technology to find a new balance between what the consumer wants in an experience and what is helpful to the profitability and experience at the golf course itself? And so, like Visage or how is the GPS interface going to be different?
Yeah.
How are we going to be able to more and more order our food and beverage on demand on the golf course and have that delivered to us within 3 holes rather than waiting for the traditional turn experience? Or, and that might help keep pace of play moving rather than having to sit there and spend 10 or 15 minutes. I got to order this. I got to pay.
Yeah.
We're seeing some advancements in that. Well, more and more of that is that kind of technology, Scott, is not revolutionizing the golf experience. It's fine tuning it to make it better and maybe even more profitable.
So there's 2 aspects to technology and data collection, right? So the data can be used, number one, to make the customer experience better, like we were talking about, making these micro changes and kind of elevating the player experience while they're on the golf course. The other, and maybe even more important reason to collect data is so that on the operational side, you can go in and find efficiencies on the back end. Right. And possibly even new strategies on the back end in terms of, mining that data and finding that out. So, where do you land on that side of things, and how robust are the efforts that are either already starting to take place, or are there robust efforts in place to start collecting as much data as possible on the playing experience? Let's just take, for example, pace of play. starting to capture rounds on carts. How long is it taking people anonymously, if we need to play a round of golf?
Right. There are organizations like the USGA that are trying to study the pace of play phenomenon and how to speed up a round of golf.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful to a certain degree in the sense of, okay, if we can change a 4.5 hour or 4 hour, 45-minute round of golf to 4 hours, okay, that's helpful. That's good. But that's not necessarily going to change somebody's ability to dedicate half a day to play golf. There's not a lot of difference between 4 hours and 4 hours and 45 minutes when you're looking at the total experience.
Yeah.
So there, but it's worthy to look at because it still would have an impact on the game and the business in a positive way, I think.
Yeah.
I think that I'm not seeing a lot of folks doing a lot of in-depth study, but I do see companies like Visage and the GPS while on the consumer side, the GPS technology is arguably making the golfer experiencing more interesting and robust. On the management side, they showed me some really fascinating data tools that shows a golf course operator the kind of stuff you're talking about. How long is it taking someone to get through a round of golf? Where are the golf cars going? And are we setting a golf course for that? Where are there opportunities to squeeze in people who only want to play 3 or 4 holes because the Visage technology is showing me where there's a hole on the golf course? Hey, Mr. Karen, you and your son, we can squeeze you in at hole 15 if you just want to play 3 holes real quick.
Yeah.
And that's one. So that's I think just now happening, Scott, that we're seeing some of the tools on the player experience side that will inform possible changes in how we operate for efficiency, profitability, and to offer experiences that the consumers want. If I just want a 45-minute golf experience, how on earth do I get that that's on the golf course?
Yeah, that's so good. All right, so you know where Dude and I are coming from with pace of play. We've had a short conversation about that, but I mean, give me your personal thoughts on putting a clock on the game of golf and kind of creating time-oriented, pace-adjusted formats that people could say, I've only got 45 minutes, but I'd like to play 9 holes in those 45 minutes. Can you make that available for me? I mean, just give me your thoughts on where that might be headed, and does that have potential or not?
So when you say putting a clock on golf, a couple things come to mind. One is as a golfer, I think we do ourselves a disservice to new golfers when we actually put a clock to it, like you're falling behind or you must finish your round in 4.5 hours. That kind of pressure is one of those things that really frustrates a lot of people. And so on one hand, we have to recognize that there's no other hospitable kind of experience or recreation experience that I've seen where you might have someone drive out to hole number 7 and say, speed it up. Well, I mean, where's the hospitality in that? But I get it. The core golfer understands the efficiencies of a faster round of golf. So I get that. I think it's less about how much time it takes as it is pace. Do I feel like I'm moving along or am I waiting?
Yeah.
I think that is actually a more fundamental question to answer because if a golf round takes 5 hours, but I felt I really wasn't waiting a lot, then you're not going to be as upset as a golfer. Now, so that on one hand, putting a clock on golf is a tough issue in that stand. But to what you and I talked about last week in our private conversation was how do we look differently, maybe a paradigm shift in how to buy golf. I only have 37 minutes to play golf. How can I find a golf course and make a reservation that will take my 45-minute round of golf?
Yeah.
And not have to, and it might not involve starting on the first tee and having to find the perfect tee time on tee number 1. And selling and marketing golf in time increments, in addition to starting times.
Yes.
Right. So yes, that might take some rocket scientists to figure out, looking at algorithms of how you slice and dice your inventory and sell it, because we basically only sell 18 holes and 9-hole rounds.
Yep. That's
as far as we've been able to slice and dice the golf product, for the most part.
Yeah.
You look at companies like Nabisco, and, they sold graham crackers in the rectangular shape for generations, right? Well, all of a sudden, sometime like in the 1980s, they decided to take their graham cracker and cut it into teddy bear squares and call it Teddy Grams. And they found a way to package it, and their price per unit went way up. You're paying a heck of more for Teddy Grams than you are the traditional graham cracker. well, how can we kind of take inspiration from that and look at golf and say, is there a possibility that we can not necessarily disrupt the ongoing way we've been conducting business, but add to it this layer of time-sensitive golf? Because in creating Teddygrams, they did not have to disrupt or retire the old-fashioned graham cracker.
Yeah.
Like they figure out a way to offer both. That's the key, Scott, is there's such a conservative element in golf that to try to have a conversation about how to change it, there's this feeling of, well, you can't displace what we do.
Yeah.
What can we do that complements it so that we can also add in the Scotts and the Jays who want to come for just 1 hour and speed around 3 or 4 or 5 holes instead of having to wait for the perfect tee off on number 1.
It's interesting how many times I have to say that when I'm talking to people about pace of play and using a clock and that kind of stuff, is to say, hey, we're not trying to replace golf. Golf's always going to be there. Traditional golf is going to be, it's even being on the show Altered Course, and doing the kind of the post episode recaps and stuff like that. Like we'd always hear the producer that we were with say the same thing, like, hey, this is just a fun alternative. Like, we're not trying to replace the game. It's because there is that conservative element out there, that large conservative and traditional element that doesn't want to see things change and doesn't want to experience disruption. I think sometimes in industries, disruption is impossible. There's an issue that just has to be solved, and so there's going to be waves, there's going to be disruption, there's going to be a storm. But
I don't see anything disrupting golf in the same way that other industries have been disrupted or threatened because of this. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's golf specific. In other words, there may be some new sport, that comes into American society that is a disruptor in the sense of it's a new competitor.
Yeah.
But golf, it doesn't have the same kind of, I think, disruptive potential as other industries have.
I agree.
I think it's a matter of getting ahead of it. And, the fact is we've been losing golfers at a relatively slow rate. We've been losing golfers, and it's not an existential issue. But if we act like we're going out of business, then I think we can come up with some interesting solutions. But we don't act like we're going out of business as an industry. We're most courses are happy with their 28,000 rounds. They know that they have to work harder for better profitability. But they don't feel the existential threat like maybe a taxi cab does. Yeah. In certain markets. And so, but I think if we can at the leadership levels in golf have pivot this conversation from how do we get more people playing the traditional game of golf to how do we get more people trying new things in golf, and that might result in some customer retention. But also, to your point, I think, Scott, about looking at the golf business, if more and more operators looked at their business as a land and entertainment business where golf is the core product, then they're going to be open more to what else can I do with this facility? Whether it's bringing concerts here or 5K races or maybe cross-country skiing in the wintertime if covered in snow, or foot golf, integrating foot golf onto the land, or disc golf, or whatever it might be.
Speed golf.
300 acres of land sometimes. Are there ways to leverage this asset in ways other than the traditional 18-hole round of golf? And I think it's happening. We see it happen. There's no question about it.
Yeah. But do you feel like operators are waiting for, quote unquote, permission from not permission? I'm not saying, exactly permission, but, are they waiting for the NGCOA to say, hey guys, use your property in multiple ways. Don't just use it for golf. I mean, are they waiting kind of for you guys to say that, or?
No. They're not waiting for us to say it, Scott, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't say it. We should be having that conversation. No, because I learned long ago, when you represent an industry full of independent operators, there is no edict that is going to come from the ivory tower of NGCOA that's going to cause people to now feel okay about doing something different with their business. What happens is oftentimes you have some leaders, some people, the leading edge people that are willing to try it. Yeah. And others are going to be willing to try it when they see the economic benefit of it, as well as not only the economic benefit, but feeling good that it's not disrupting the other areas of my operation. So once that becomes more of a mainstream conversation, like let's say foot golf, there are a lot of people that don't want to do foot golf because they feel they're core golfers. simply just don't want to see these 20-inch cups, whatever the size is, out on the golf course. People kicking a soccer ball. It disrupts the old-fashioned visual experience of being out there.
Yeah.
So, but what might convince them is the profit and loss statement that Buffalo Golf might be bringing to their facility, which is having a very difficult time hiring new people because they can't afford it, or a very difficult time making capital investments in their facility because they simply don't have the profit margin to do so. Well, what if this activity over the course of a year added $50,000 to your bottom line? Okay, you might start thinking a little different. And I think they need to see, the laggers and the tire kickers need to see a lot more evidence that these things actually work and are helpful. And they don't want to take the risk without that kind of information.
Yeah, and that's like that's a principle of businesses. You always have the beta testers. Yep. And the early adopters aren't going to try it out till the beta testers try it. And then the early adopters come along, and the early adopters have their friends that they tell that are in the industry, and then they try it. And then you've got the mass adoption that comes after that. And the life cycle of that depends on the industry that you're in. But, yeah, it seems like it would be great to have almost like a Google X, like a few clubs that are willing to be part of this, a petri dish of let's test out some different concepts and ideas at our golf courses and see if they work, and if they do, then we can expand them out too.
That's actually it's interesting you say that, Scott, because when I was building NGCOA's strategic plan with our board, I identified in that area of commerce that I talked about that from a cultural standpoint, I want NGCOA to be seen as an incubator of ideas. Yeah. Exactly what you're talking about. Now we don't have the venture capital.
Yeah,
actually say, here's $500,000 to test this program.
Yeah.
But what can we do to bring together the entities within golf where we can stimulate the conversation or have the conversation that might stimulate something different? Like, for example, this is not necessarily revolutionary, but let's say the food and beverage concept at golf. Well, it hasn't changed a lot. You can order, you get the food and beverage cart coming around and so forth. What can we do collectively to maybe lift food and beverage spend by 5 or 6% by bringing mobile payment technology to the user? Mobile ordering payment technology, everything is happening out there. There's an app called Bev Now, and they're trying to take the lead on this very concept. But what more can NGCOA do to facilitate these kinds of discussions in golf? We can't execute it, but we have to be the Chamber of Commerce that is pulling together the right entities to have these kinds of discussions, and then hopefully let those that do business in the golf industry take it from there and make something of it.
It's tough for you because you're such an active and just positive, moving forward type of person, and yet you sit in a role where you have to serve 3,000 different people and be thinking about their interests as well. So, how difficult is that to kind of balance the wonderful position that you're in, and that you sit on several boards. From your seat, you're really able to get a great view of the landscape of golf as it currently is. So you sit in this really unique role, and yet at the same time, you've got to be patient and sit back and make sure that you're serving those instead of telling them, like you said. It would be easy to go, guys, I know what's going on. Here's what we need to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You guys just need to follow along, and we're all going to be happy. But you can't do that.
You hit the heart of one of the challenges of simply being an association leader, and that most associations are consensus-based kinds of organizations. I need board approval
by committee,
membership buy-in in order to move forward, and that can sometimes be the antithesis of innovation and progress. Yeah. And now, on the other hand, that is also a hedge against risk. We are an organization that exists for our members. If we take too many risks in too many different directions without that governor effect of having a board and having membership really inform what we do, we could go out of business tomorrow. We could somehow, I guess, exploit the resources we have because we had one harebrained idea and it all goes out of business, and that's not fair or responsible to the membership. If I owned my own company, I could do whatever I want here and be as innovative and as progressive because it's my risk. But I think that the key to being effective is making sure that the board of directors and the staff of the organization agree on a posture of innovation and progress together. That are we going to be an innovative, progressive organization, If so, what does that mean from a decision-making standpoint? How much authority does a board have in approving programs, services, ideas, what have you? Or how much are they involved in just simply setting the direction that, for example, we know we want NGCOA to be a leader in driving the conversation of best practices in golf and a leader in doing all of that. Well, then they delegate to the staff to make that happen. And if they truly do that, then there is some room for innovation and progress and doing some interesting things. And in golf, I think in the past has seen some of that, but not a lot of it.
Yeah.
Not a lot. And I think we see a lot of new leaders at organizations in golf. A lot of guys like me in their 40s that are haven't been in the industry for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
Trying to take our associations and do something progressive with them. So I'm pleased to see some of the conversations happening. But at the end of the day, from a decision-making standpoint, you have to look at each organization and find out how much room is there to really execute on innovation and progress. And you gotta go sometimes down the path of least resistance. Do it yourself, or find the allies that are going to do it with you, and and then leave the others behind and just do it, and that's fine. And so I'm trying to figure that out right now. 6 months on the job, trying to figure out what's the path forward as far as charting our own course as well as participating with the others.
Yeah. Well, look, we said an hour. It's been an hour, but there's just so much more to talk about. I hope that you'll be willing to come back on sometime in the future and do a part 2.
Absolutely, of course. This is a dynamic industry. It's very complex, and every one of these issues, like you said, we can go down a rabbit hole just for an hour on certain issues. So, I'm happy to. I love this format, and I love the discussions that you want to stimulate out there in this podcast.
So for our listeners out there, if they want to follow you, follow kind of your progress, what you're doing over there at the NGCOA, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. A few ways. I have a blog, and it's the address is perspective.ngcoa.org.
Okay.
I also am pretty active on Twitter and LinkedIn. Twitter, my handle is JKarenCAE, which stands for Certified Association Executive. JKarenCAE is my Twitter handle, and you can find that on LinkedIn as well. And I'm pretty active on all those channels.
All right, give us one last thought on what you see, your perspective on the world of golf moving forward, because there's a lot of media out there that are saying, they're trying to put the house is burning down kind of spin on it. And I think a lot of America out there is having that conversation. So can you change the tune a little bit? Yeah.
So the feeling is that Rome is burning, right? The fact, the Roman Empire is crumbling. Well, it's not. Yes, the fact is more Romans have been emigrating from the empire than we'd like to see. But when you look at the arc of history of the golf industry, you look at this, this rise of the number of facilities in the 20th century and a sharp rise over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
But when you look at what's being labeled as the decline, it is marginal when it comes to especially the number of facilities. We had this hockey stick growth, and it flattened out, and now it's moving downward on a very, very slow pace. And some will argue that's actually healthy for supply and demand balancing.
It's like a correction.
Yeah, exactly. Now on the golfer side, losing 2 or 3% a year, if you compound that over the next 10 or 15 years, that isn't very good, right? So the sky isn't falling. Golf is not going to disappear. Our death has not been written. The rumors of our death have been greatly exaggerated, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think we need to make sure we're telling an accurate story as to what golf participation really means, because as my friend at the PGA of America, Pete Balakwe, said, we need to also measure how many times are people going to the range? How many times are people going for a lesson? In addition to just starting at hole number 1, what does golf participation really mean? You've got this youth infusion at the PGA Tour level and the LPGA. That's only good for golf, optics standpoint. And I have not written the death of golf at all. I think it's going to be very successful moving forward. It's just a new normal. I think the recession, while it was very hurtful, probably did us some favors by rewiring the mindset of the owners and operators out there to maybe do a better job with their business and to be more in tuned on customer retention and what we can do to really make this successful, not build it, they will come. So I'm pretty positive on it, Scott, but it's just gonna be a new normal. It's not going to be a death spiral. It's just a new normal.
All right, Jay Karen, CEO, NGCOA, thank you so much for coming on today. We will talk to you again soon, and best of luck until then.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
All right, that's it. Episode 17 in the books with Jay Karen, CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association. How awesome was that conversation? I mean, just to know that the leaders in the industry are hearing what golfers want, and they're beginning to adapt, and they're beginning to adopt, and they are beginning to evolve. It is already happening, guys. The picture is getting brighter, and the future is exciting in the world of golf. Hey, we hope you enjoy these weekly podcasts with the thought leaders, pioneers, and game changers in the golf industry. You can support our efforts as well by following us on Facebook /Pace of Change, over at Twitter at Pace of Change Pod, and of course you can always sign up for our newsletter where we keep you up to date on the latest news, announcements, and soon to come product reviews. We're excited about that. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening on iTunes, leave a review, man. That really helps us out, and it gets our message out to more golfers. Every action you take above makes a bigger difference than you can imagine, so thank you in advance for doing that. All right, next week, episode 18 with Dave Schultz, who is the founder and creator of Reality, a indoor-outdoor golfing complex, kind of like Top Golf. So excited to talk to him. Till then, guys, pick up the pace. We'll talk to you next week.